What is our purpose here? What is my goal? What am I trying to achieve? What kind of mark am I trying to leave on the world? What kind of legacy am I trying to leave for my family? I've really made this realization that if I want to scale any farther, if I want to grow my business, want to grow my revenue, I can no longer do it all by myself. You know, when you're an entrepreneur, I think one of the things that you definitely are chasing is freedom, right? There's a reason why we started our own business, having the clarity of what you want, what you need, and who you need. And I know for myself, freedom of time was why I started.
Welcome back to Business Book Club Breakthroughs, the show where real founders share the books that are moving the needle for their companies, but more importantly, how they're applying these ideas to build stronger foundations, better teams, and healthier margins. I'm Christin Cherry, your business growth guide. I help owners implement practical operational systems so they can scale with less chaos. What I love most about these conversations is how practical they get. Every guest you hear from has attended our business book club and is sharing what's clicking for them and the real changes they're seeing in their company. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed, stuck, or like you're working really hard and just not seeing that growth that you want, today's episode is for you. Today, we are talking with Jordan Dolan, who owns and runs Savory events and the famous Woodlands Supper Club. Jordan, thank you so much for coming on with us today.
Christin, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on your podcast.
Yes. Okay, so Jordan, let's dive right into it. Tell us a little bit about who you are and really what you're chasing in your business right now.
All right, so I am the executive chef of my company, Savory Events. We are a private luxury catering company based here in the Woodlands. I've had my business for 12 years. I have been in the kitchen for 20 years. I mean, ever since I was 13 years old. And the Woodlands Supper Club is our specialty dinner series that we started when we moved here to Texas. And, you know, I joined the book club because one of the hardest parts about being an entrepreneur is feeling like you're really alone a lot of the time. And it's just been so amazing to connect with other business owners. We're all in totally different industries, which honestly I love, because in our conversations, you realize that we're all dealing with the same struggles and the same challenges. And so being able to connect with other business owners and like we are all feeling the same pain and then also figuring out solutions and being able to bounce those back and forth off each other has just been amazing.
Beautiful. That is. It becomes a very lonely world. There's not a ton of us. And I love that you're saying the mixture of industries, because we tend to network most with our industry or learn most within our industry. And so as you've been surrounding yourself with more diverse entrepreneurs, you're seeing we face a lot of the same issues. They just look a little different, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd say even within our group, I can't remember exactly how many people we're at right now, but you know, there's some of us in hospitality, there's some legal, there's some realtors, there's people in the health and wellness space, and again, most of us are facing very similar challenges.
Yeah, interesting. So Jordan, tell us about like where you're at today and really what's the pain point that you're facing most right now that maybe this book club is helping you get around or through.
So I'd say the biggest pain point I'm at right now is, so I've had my company for 12 years and I have up until this point very much been I think it's called like a solopreneur, right? Where like I do it all. I wear all of the hats. I am sales, I am admin, I am cooking, I am dishwashing, like literally every single one of the things that happens, it goes through me. And the only help, and I shouldn't say the only help because I have lots of help, is you know, on event days where we're actually on site and prepping and cooking there. And so I've really made this realization that in order, if I want to scale any farther, if I want to grow my business, want to grow my revenue, I can no longer do it all by myself. And it's hard to let go of some certain things, but there's a lot of things about the process of my business that are not on the creative side. And that's the part that I'm great at, like the creative side, the cooking, the designing side. Um, I don't need to be sending catering agreements. I do not need to be sending deposit requests. Like somebody else can be doing those things, and I can be selling and designing and doing the stuff that I'm really good at. So this book club, and especially the book that I'm going to talk about, has just been like the perfect timing for me.
Very good. So what I like to say is you're hitting that ceiling, right? What made you successful has gotten you so far, but that next level of success, really, we've got to kind of break through that glass ceiling, right? We can see it above us, but sometimes bumping up against that ceiling is very frustrating. So I love that you are leaning into education and just trying to grow yourself and your business in a certain way. So of course, books are a great resource for this. So tell us, Jordan, which book are you going to talk about today that has really shifted you, your mindset, your business, all of the things?
Okay, so the book I'm going to talk about, I don't show it off, is the one that we are reading right now, The Who Not How, by Dan Sullivan. This is, it's something that I feel like I've always known in the back of my mind, right? Like there's people that are much better than I am at a lot of these things. And so diving into, figuring out how to scale, who are the right people to start taking over some of these other tasks. And it's not a one size fits all. Like I'm not going to find one person who can take over 50% of my tasks right off the bat. But you also, in scaling, you don't have an unlimited budget. So I can't just go out and hire 10 people at a time, and nor would you want to, because that seems a little dicey, being able to train that many people at once. And so I really like, though, how much the book and how much he or they specifically talk about, okay, figuring out what those pain points are, identifying where you're spending the majority of your time, and trying to find the right people to fill those voids.
Right. So for the audience who hasn't necessarily read or heard of Who Not How, give us a little insight on what's the difference. Like we all know to hire, right? Like that's basic, right? Let's hire, let's delegate, let's move on, right? Tell us how is he shifting the way you're thinking about this by addressing who, not how?
So I think coming from, I come from a very entrepreneurial family. My dad had his own businesses growing up, and I grew up in a probably how not who watching that part. I mean, I love my dad dearly, but to this day, he is still doing the how not who. And so it was just drilled into me from childhood, like you just work harder, right? You just work more, you work harder, you work more hours. And if you work harder, then eventually you'll succeed above everybody else. Well,
Yes.
there's only 24 hours in a day. And I spend the majority of those working already. And I have a family, and, I do want to go to the gym and do some other activities too, which I think are very important in order for, keeping the balance and, mental load, I think, is a newer term. It feels very something that you hear a lot about now. I think a lot of our parents and the generation before us, that's not a thing. They're like, yeah, mental load, whatever. But I think it's something that we're really conscious of. And so in reading this book, this has really forced me to look at, he speaks very specifically. Here, I'm actually going to go and let me find. So the book is broken up into 4 parts. So freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of relationship, and freedom of purpose. So those are all, when you're an entrepreneur, I think one of the things that you definitely are chasing is freedom, right? There's a reason why we started our own businesses. There's a reason why we don't feel like we're good employees, or we don't work well for other people. And I know for myself, freedom of time was why I started my business. Absolutely. I mean, it was, I used to work in hotels and restaurants, the Marriott, Pebble Beach resorts, and I was working 60, 80, 90, 100-hour weeks for somebody else. I had no control over my schedule. We often went multiple weeks without days off. And like, great, we were getting lots of overtime pay and racking up PTO, but I never got to take it. I never got to take that PTO. I didn't,
Ah,
yeah, I never, I probably spent the money on things that I shouldn't have been spending it on back then.
sure,
But
sure.
um, so even just the first part of that book, Freedom of Time, I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel so seen. Like that is because that's why I started. And so I started my business when my daughter was about to start kindergarten. And I was a single mom at that point. So those 60, 70, 80 hours a week that I was working, I was paying for daycare every single hour that I was working. And so actually so this month is 12 years. And I was looking at her going into kindergarten in the fall. And I was like, what am I going to do? Like, who's going to take her to school and pick her up? Like, am I going to have to pay a nanny now? Like, I can't afford to pay a nanny. Um, and I already, by that point, I still have a lot of mom guilt about this. Like, I missed so many milestones because I was always working. And so her going into kindergarten was like a little light bulb was like, this isn't going to work anymore. Like you cannot keep continuing down this road. And so that was truly freedom of time is why I left working, the security of working for a big resort with good pay and full medical and all that PTO that I all the PTO that I couldn't take anyways. But yeah, the freedom of time. And then the next part, freedom of money, that's something that I really don't think that kind of hit home for me until I started reading this book. Now, I was raised, I think I talked about this in our last in-person meeting. I was raised in a tiny little hippie beach town, and we were just taught that money is the root of all evil, and how dare you want that, and it's just going to lead to bad things. And the truth of the matter is that as I've moved forward in my business and had more funds available to me, I have actually been able to help a lot of people. I now have time, I have time to volunteer for organizations. They're usually food related because that's what I'm good at. But I never before, like, you have to have the freedom to be able to do that. And, when you're grinding constantly to, just make every last dollar, like, you kind of lose sight of being able to do those things. And so I think about the freedom of money as being that I can do more for other people. Like, I can hire more people. I can provide jobs for more people. Um, I love teaching. Like, teaching comes very natural to me. And I've always hired and taught people, usually with very little to no experience. Um, we like to call it in the catering world, like the phone a friend. When you're shorthanded, like, hey, got a friend, like, want them to come to work? Do they need catering experience? No, it's fine. Like, we got
We've
it. And
got
so I I
it.
have taught multiple people how to cook who came to me
Yeah.
without cooking backgrounds. I have taught
Mm.
people front a house that had no experience in it. And so again, that's, having the funds available to be able to hire those people and to provide them a job and to provide them with, a means for them to make their way in the world. I just find that really powerful. And again,
It really is. It is powerful. It's something like you said, our the old way of thinking, right? And it made sense then, but we have more information today that we have to pause and say, should we shift? Should we be thinking differently, right? And entrepreneurs, we like to think a little bit differently. So I love this.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, and I know that you know too, like once you become an entrepreneur and you're in the small business world, like it almost becomes hard to be friends with people who are not in that world because you don't think the same way. You really don't. Like I, my brain doesn't shut off at 5 o'clock. I don't like, I can't just, I'm like, okay, work's done for the day. Like, no, it is 10 o'clock at night. And I'm like, oh my God, I have a menu idea. I'm going to write like a whole menu. So anyways,
Creative freedom. That's what
creative
we
freedom.
finally get, that creative freedom that we crave.
Yes, and that's the part that fuels me, right? Is that creativity piece. Like I find myself very unusual in that I'm a very creative person, but I'm also very much a Virgo. So I am super organized,
Okay.
but I also really love creative chaos. It's a weird combination. But I'm going to touch on the last two parts of the book.
Yes.
So the part that I am in right now, I'm actually finishing part 3, which is the freedom of relationship. And so this is so good, right? And how to be a good who for others. So I was having a conversation with my trainer the other day at the gym about this. I was telling her about this book, and I could see her light bulb go off in her head. She's like, well, I'm a who for you. And then you're a who for me. And then I'm a who for this other person. I was like, yes, like that is, you're an amazing trainer. Like that is your, unique special ability in this world. And so you can be that person for me. And then for her, I am, a great client who shows up every day and who works hard and then introduces her to books like this. And so it's we are all who's for other people. It's not just about who can do something for me, right? It's also about like what I can do for other people. And
Community, right? Community is everything. It cannot be one-sided or it can't be alone. Like you shared at the opening, solopreneur, being alone as you start this business. Ooh, it's hard. And so that community starts with being a good who and building those relationships.
yeah, absolutely. And I have always been a fan of the term community over competition. I believe there is plenty of work out there for all of us. I believe that when we all work together, like we all get better. And that's not to say it isn't important to be competitive in your field and, or possibly competitive in your pricing or whatever that looks like. But that doesn't mean that you can't be a good community member and you can't lift up the other people. Or for me, that also means like if there's ever an event I can't do, I have another caterer or a chef that I refer that client every single time.
Which makes you look good to the client, right? You're solving the problem that they came to you for.
Yeah, I don't just want to be like, nope, I'm not available. Sorry. Like that's especially being in hospitality. I don't feel like that's hospitable. Like I always want to still help somebody. And, the people that I recommend are vetted. I'm not just pulling names off the internet. These are usually people that I know, other caterers within our community, other chefs that I've worked with before. And so I feel comfortable referring them. And, one of the things I also love about the book club, as opposed to like some of the more traditional networking groups, right, is like there's so many networking groups, especially in our area, that are just all they're about is referrals. They're like not about building community at all. They are just about like literally there's several where it's a roster and you keep track of how many referrals you sent each week, and then you have to turn them in like homework every week. And I went to a couple of those meetings and I was like, this is so weird. Like I don't know necessarily if that person's a good contractor.
Yeah.
Or
are they a good who?
Yeah, are they a good who? Like, do they have good morals? Do they treat their clients well? And so the business book club is not that. It's not a business networking group. It is truly a book about like we're all just trying to get better. Um, yeah, and so that'll lead me to part 4, which I'm about to start. So I haven't read
Okay.
this
Okay.
piece yet, but it is freedom of purpose, and I think this, right, it's the perfect ending to all the other stuff that we're already talking about. Is like what is our purpose here? What is my goal? What am I trying to achieve? What kind of mark am I trying to leave on the world? What kind of legacy am I trying to leave for my family? And what are that comes kind of also comes back to like your core values and like what does your company stand for? In my business, you know, eating and purchasing ingredients from local farms and ranches is super, super important to me. It's something that I do not, um, God, what's the word I'm looking for? Something I don't negotiate on. I don't know. There's a better word for that.
You don't take this one lightly, do you? Those are big decisions on how you're fueling your service, the
Yeah,
experience people are
yeah,
having.
exactly. And I feel really strongly about the quality of the food that we put into our bodies. And also for me, like keeping those dollars local and not giving that money to these giant corporations that are, the pigs are coming from whoever and the strawberries are coming from Mexico and whatnot. Like, so a cornerstone of my business is our purpose, which is, connecting and supporting our local farms and ranches. And that's something that I'm unwilling to waver on.
Oh, I love that. You're so deeply rooted in what that is. The more clear you can get on who you are, the purpose, and why you're here, I think it makes you unstoppable. It puts these blinders on in the best possible way to say, nope, not my jam, not my jam. So you go through a lot of friction when you are trying to find that. So Jordan, I love this. You really hit the ground running whenever you came here. You started the supper club. You're making impacts this way. It's so beautiful. I love the whole freedom of time, freedom of relationship, all of these freedoms. I think I agree with you. Entrepreneurs love freedom. So Dan Sullivan was very wise, and Dr. Benjamin Hardy are very wise for using those titles because we were all like, yes, freedom of all the things. So you're making it as a solopreneur and you're looking to grow. So Who Not How, perfect book for you in this season of life. So you can start seeing how you can expand, break through that invisible ceiling that you're hitting up against. All of these freedoms are really shining for you. Tell me, was there a specific concept in the book that you took and applied that has really gained traction on the direction you're headed?
Yes. So I'm trying to find it, and it was something I was actually working on yesterday. So it is a in progress. Um, I can't find it in here, but it's the impact filter. So very, right, being able to define super specifically, like what are you looking for in a who? What are the tasks that you need them to complete? I think that's something that in the past I had a very hard time with conceptualizing. Like, okay, if I'm going to hire, a person to do sales, or if I'm going to hire a person to be in the kitchen, like, how do I even find the right person that is going to hold the same values as me and is going to know, exactly what I want? And it's not about being 100% of what I want, but you have to get, 85, 90% of the way there.
Yeah.
And
The
so,
right people, right seats matter so much.
yes, it matters so much. And so being able to sit down, and for me, I'm a physical, I need to write it down, like
Very good.
not typey on my computer. I have to
Okay.
like
Okay.
physically write it in a book. And I've started to physically write out, okay, these are the people that are coming up that I think I'm going to need in my business. These are the specific things that I'm going to need from them. And it's not about, again, it's not necessarily about the way that they get it done, because people are going to get things done in different ways. And I need to not be a micromanager. Like, as long as you're getting to that result that we're looking for, it doesn't really matter to me, like how you get there. But I think using the impact filter to be super specific is going to be a game changer.
Clarity is a huge thing. It sounds like such a such an overused word, I feel, in my world for sure. But clarity, it really is. When you're able to put it down, especially on paper, love the pen to paper concept too. There's something about it. There's something about drawing it out, writing it out. And when you put it on paper, it makes it real. And then when you start talking about it, it starts making it happen. And so that is certainly what you're doing in many aspects. I love that you're using the impact filter. It's a great tool that Dan Sullivan introduces in the book. He gives the example. Many of us actually are using the impact filter to bring clarity before we stumble into this next hire, or this next person. It could be a mentor, it could be a partner, right? It could be a collaborator. There's so many versions, or there's so many needs we have when it comes to a who and not the how. The how doesn't matter. So let me add to this, because you were talking about how, you don't really care how it gets done. You just want the who, right? And Dan Sullivan does a great job of helping us understand, when you can find somebody in their expertise, you don't have to worry about how they get it done. They're probably better at it than you. And that's the goal. Like, find somebody better at that task than you. Then you don't have to worry about it. And that's a beautiful world.
I want them to be better than me, right? Yes. Like, I'm really good at the cooking part. Like, I don't want to go become a marketing expert. That's not.
Amen.
That part does not stoke me. It does not fuel my fire. And there's so many people out there that it does, right?
Right. Like, yes.
Yeah. And so, right people, right seats, man. That is so important.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me, you've got all of this new insight. You have some major mindset shifts. We're breaking through that invisible ceiling. We're filling out the impact filter. Tell us, you're applying some things right now. How is this flowing for you? How is this showing up for you?
Oh gosh, in so many ways. I mean, we are at a point right now, I'm making some major strides to try and grow and scale my business here. And they really are going to take several who's over time. And so the timing of this and being able to define exactly who those people are, what I need from them, and then also kind of line up like what order I'm going to need those people in, right?
Yeah,
because again,
very good.
Like I mentioned, I don't have $1 million payroll budget. And so I can't just go and hire 10 people all at once, but I have to be very kind of specific and careful, I think, about the order that I bring these people in, so that I'm maximizing my efficiency and maximizing my time spent in ways that are going to continue making the business money. And so for me right now, my skills, the things that I'm best at are, right, the cooking, the menu planning, the designing. Well, that's all great. None of those happen unless I'm selling parties, right? I don't get to cook unless I have parties booked. And surprisingly, something that I did not realize back in the day when I was just a cook in the kitchen is I'm actually really good at sales. I'm for me, I don't know if I'd be good at sales for your business or for somebody else's business, but it's because I'm so passionate about what I do, and I'm passionate about the food, and I'm passionate about the menus and the design, that right now I need to make sure that my time is being spent on the sales side, right? Driving that business, driving the revenue for my company. And then the people that I'm bringing in are going to start filling in those gaps of, again, the not creative and the not sales pieces. And so that is admin support, that is, event support, things like doing dishes. Like, I got to be honest, I do not mind doing dishes, like especially with a commercial dish machine. But after the last supper club, when I was back at the kitchen doing dishes at midnight, I was like, why am I doing this? Like, I should not be doing this right now. And that's not to say that, I won't do dishes in the future, but I just felt like that was kind of the perfect, like, realization for me. Like, the doing dishes part is not making me money.
Right. It's
you
not an
know,
ego. It's not an ego thing, right? Like, you
no,
love doing it. You probably grew up doing it. It's a huge part of what you do. But should you be doing it based on, I saw a video or a comment, something on social media, and she said, "I'm the most expensive admin I've ever had." And same for you, right? You're the most expensive dishwasher
I'm
when
the
you're
most
in that.
expensive dishwasher I've ever had. Yeah. And again, I don't mind, and it's not an ego thing. Like I do not care about doing dishes or loading the van or doing any of those tasks, but my time should be spent making money for the business. And those things aren't making money for the business. They're an essential part. You can't do the event without them. And then also just be again releasing that ego and realizing that I do not have to have my hands on every single piece. Um, I love my storage. My storage is beautifully organized, and every time I go back there, I, do a little sort. But I'm like, if everything is labeled properly, there's no reason why somebody else can't be coming in and putting things away and pulling stuff for the next event,
Yeah.
And so, but again,
Let
these
me
are like figuring out those pain points.
So let me ask you, Jordan, let me put you on the spot here for a second. So you probably spend a couple hours loading and unloading when you have events. What would you trade your time with if you had a who to do that? What would you be spending your time doing?
So well, I think it's twofold. So there's the work things that I would trade my time for, and then also the personal things. So the work things is I do find that when we are super busy with events, right? I get bogged down in all of the loading, unloading, doing dishes. And so then I fall behind on my responses to clients, and I fall behind on my writing the menu, sending them proposals. And so I know that in the past that has lost me business. And so if I was not spending my time bogged down doing these other tasks, that means that I would have more time to be on top of the sending of the proposals and the writing of the menus. Again, the things that are making me money. And then the other part of that, the late night, the doing dishes at midnight, like I would rather be home with my family. I have my husband, I have a 16-year-old daughter, we've got two dogs. I'm pregnant, I've got another one on the way. So like that's gonna keep me up at night. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of twofold. Like when I look at getting my time back, I see it in both ways. I see work time back for things that are going to continue growing the business, and then my personal family time, which is so important. And I think I spent so much, like I said, my daughter's much younger years, I spent so much time working that I missed out on a lot of things that I wish I hadn't.
Yeah. So now you get to kind of go into this next pregnancy knowing, like, no, we're not going to repeat this. We're going to find some who's to plug them in so you can have that freedom of time that you've worked so hard for. You deserve so much, right? You've created such a great company that now you get to fill in all the pieces and just watch it blossom, continue to blossom. Man, Jordan, what a beautiful shift that you're making with this whole who, not how. Even, our upbringing tells us something different. A solopreneur is not where you're going to end this career path. It's a much bigger picture. I know you, and I know you've got a super great plan on how you're going to bring in those who's. And it sounds like you are strategizing appropriately. We've got to get the money in, then hire this person. When you don't have that beautiful, clear plan on how you're going to get there, it just never happens. It never just pops up. So I love you being intentional, using a lot of these tools in the books. You're such an asset to the book club with all of the conversations that we have. So my last question for you is, what is something that you want to share with the audience? What's the biggest thing that you can recommend or share with them to shift their way of thinking? Maybe they're in something similar as you. What piece of advice do you have for them?
Oh, man, you do not have to do it by yourself. Like you do not have to do it alone. It's okay to ask for help. It does not mean that you are less than or you're not as hard of a worker. I think so many of us, again, kind of in our generation, I think learn from especially if our parents were entrepreneurs, that just the nose to the grindstone and working harder and longer than everybody else. And that's not the way it needs to be. And it's, not to say that you are not going to spend some years doing that, because I think you do have to do that piece too, but it's not forever. And as soon as you get that clarity, I love that term because I think it's so important. Having the clarity of what you want, what you need, and who you need. That's what's going to help any of us take that next step.
Oh, I love that. Clarity of what you want and who you need. What was the three again?
What you want, who you need, how you're going to get there.
Sure. I'll reverse.
I'll have to rewind. Yeah.
I'll rewind. We'll find that, because that's really solid, Jordan, because that is true. I think that is what creates another level of entrepreneurs. I think entrepreneurship is so beautiful. And we can tend to get lost in it. We can tend to get burnt out. We can lose sight of all these things. So truly just becoming clear on really who you need and not how you need to get it done, just who you need. Yes, yep. Very good.
Absolutely.
Well, Jordan, I thank you so much for your time, your vulnerability, sharing all of the things about your business and where you're at, where you're heading. I know this conversation is helping so many others, because you are not alone in this. There's so many of us that are dealing and facing with the same things. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing, because I know it's going to make an impact.
Thank you so much. And I'll say for anybody else out there, if you can join a book club, whether it's our business book club or one in your area, it has just been life-changing. I'm so grateful for it. And so thank you so much for bringing us together and for moderating our conversations every other week. It's just been so valuable.
Yes, thank you so much, Jordan. If today's episode resonated with you and you found yourself nodding along thinking, I could use a little more of this, I have a simple next step for you. Come join our business book club. We keep our circle small, the conversations real, and the focus on actually applying the ideas we're reading about, so we can build better businesses together. Thanks again for listening. And if you like today's episode, hit subscribe, share this with one business owner you feel really needs to hear it, and I'll see you on the next one.